Welcome to the Mobile Armored Podcast Show, the podcast that transforms into the staff of Ra. I'm Adam Moore, alongside my co-host and best friend, PJ McNerney. Greetings to you, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing. It's like a mixed bag. So on the positive side, I didn't mention this last time, but I got these great figures, these replicated figure or the nouveau figures of the extended team people have crafted. Has Professor Stevens.
I want to thank our big fan on Instagram, Retro Station Toys, for manufacturing these and sending them out to us. It is so cool. We love you, man. We love the work that you're doing. To actually have a Professor Stevens action figure is fantastic. Now, PJ, we need to go out and get a Matt Trakker action figure on eBay and put some reenactments together to share with our friends online.
Can we do the scene where Matt carries Professor Stevens into the library?
Yes, I will point out the action figure comes fully clothed. So I don't know how we're going to handle that. But Retro Station Toys, you are awesome. You should check them out on Instagram. They do all sorts of cool stuff with the action figures and are manufacturing their own. It's awesome. So thank you for these. We will cherish them always. They're the new mascots for our show.
And to be sure, one of the things it came with was a faux creation of the box that the toys would come in. But the faux creation is for Shark.
Yep.
Which I am grateful that Retro Station created it. I am angry that Kenner did not.
Yeah. No, totally. I mean, it's so cool. And the recreation is like spot on.
Oh, yeah.
The amount of time, thought, care, effort that went into this stuff. I cannot wait to show off these toys on Instagram to everyone. Retro Station, you did an amazing job. We love you. Huge shout out to you here.
Great job.
Sorry, the episode we're about to go into is not going to
so
reach the heights of what you manufactured. Episode does not do justice to you. However, it's dedicated to you, so we'll do the best we can.
This is the mixed bag because this is another episode that makes me so angry.
No, exactly. I mean, I need to dive into some stuff right off the bat. So let me talk about this. It's episode 22, The Secret of Life. Venom steals an ancient Egyptian tablet from King Tut's tomb, which is not true. It's actually King Tutaphon tomb, which may contain, quote, the secret of life. And that phrase, the secret of life, has been gnawing at me for the past week as we've been getting ready for this episode. So I actually did a little research.
What?
Because I'm trying to understand, what does it mean to seek the secret of life? I understand the meaning of life. What's the meaning of life? But what is the secret of life? Because we have a pretty firm understanding of how life evolved on our planet, right? So when someone is seeking the secret of life, they are typically in pursuit of deeper meaning or understanding about existence, purpose, and fulfillment. It can be spiritual, philosophical, or personal quest, often encompassing questions like, what is the purpose of life? How can one find happiness or contentment? What does it mean to live a good, meaningful, or fulfilling life? PJ, these are all great questions, none of which I feel are sought after or answered in this episode of the show.
We won't reveal the answer, but the truth is it comes across as a slap in the face. After an episode that's mediocre, and I will make an argument at the end that it would have been better off if Mask had let this one go.
Yeah.
It's weird because you could tell they're stringing together a few different things, which, okay, we're going to Egypt, so we're going back to the tombs and the ancient lost cities type thing. We've seen this before. They're trying to be cute regarding, a few not so subtle references to like Indiana Jones. And then they're trying to build up the stakes in such a way that would want us to care and then just sucker punch us at the end.
A question we could ask for the majority of the episodes of the series so far. And it's only episode 22. So we open in Egypt. We know this because it's the Sphinx and the Great Pyramid off in the background. And then we kind of pan to the nearby city. And we enter an office where an archaeologist is studying a stone tablet. This guy is Professor Hillary. He comes back frequently throughout the episode, as does someone named Rashid, who enters. And they have this conversation. The professor explains that this tablet is the greatest find of the century. And they find a symbol on the tablet. That's the cartouche of King Tudavan. So my first question is King Tudavan or Tudavan real?
I did a little bit of research. No, the answer is
Excellent.
There's online. I think someone said it was like a Tudavan versus Tudafan, but it doesn't really matter because either way, it's not a real person. Now there's a god named Tutu, which is an Egyptian god who's supposed to be the slayer of demons. So that actually was kind of an interesting and cool thing. That might have been a better centerpiece for this episode. There's this thing where they're afraid of using the actual names of the real things. Like we had Sunhenge a few episodes back. It's like, look, no one's going to sue you for saying it's King Tutankhamun. Just do it.
Maybe they were straight up scared of the mummy coming to attack them. Hillary and Rashid, they continue to investigate this stone tablet, saying, what do the other hieroglyphs mean? And Hillary reveals that it means that when we locate the tomb, we will discover the biggest mystery of the ages. The golden scarab was buried with a king. Inscribed on the scarab is the secret of life itself. And the location of that king's tomb is hidden on this tablet. Now, I already set up in the preamble, what do they mean by the secret of life? They keep on saying it as if everyone understands that this is some great, huge, eternal question that all of mankind has been asking forever. So talk to me. What are your thoughts on this?
Maybe we're meant to think that the secret of life and Venom's interest in it is he saw Wrath of Khan like everyone else. So he thinks it's the Genesis device and that it's going to be a great thing to threaten the entire world with rewriting everything's DNA. And so maybe he's like, the secret of life, that must refer to this Genesis device-like thing. So I'm going to expend a lot of effort in getting it. That is the best I've got for you.
Okay.
The writers, again, they're not giving us much here. They're just expecting us to kind of read into this. I'll give you one bit. There's an irony because Egyptian mythology was actually mostly a death-focused religion. And so there's a lot of myths and rituals focused on the afterlife or coming back from the afterlife. So I think it's either to have this be the vessel for the secret of life is either something very clever on the side of the writers or a dramatic lack of research on the. Which do you think it is, Adam?
I'm going to guess it was probably a lack of research by the writers.
Okay.
The one thing we share in common with the mask writers. So anyways, Professor Hillary is very tired because he's been studying the stone tablet. And he reveals that early tomorrow morning, some people will arrive from America. I promised I would show them around the digging site. And then Rashid says, see, you really need your rest, especially considering who I assume is coming from America. I hope you like robots and bad parenting and racism. Definitely bring Rashid.
So we all know who is coming from America, and we've seen this trope before. How nervous is this guy? And it's not like it's a one-time thing. This guy is stressed out beyond belief.
He really is.
What did Matt say to the professor to make him this nervous?
You know how John Hammond in Jurassic Park is this really kindly benefactor who funds these dig sites? I feel like Matt is the same, only he's very demanding and exacting and can back his words up with lethal weapons of destruction.
Well, hold on. Do you think there's an asymmetry here? Because every woman we've seen who's heading up an expedition for Matt has got this really relaxed, familiar demeanor about her. This guy is stressed beyond belief. He is. If he's on cocaine, I wouldn't be surprised, but he is stressed.
He's having an internal debate over, is he willing to do what Matt has asked him to do in order to get this funding? How far will I go to get this money I need to support my archaeological project? Anyways, the professor understands he's going to need his rest for tomorrow. So he locks up the tablet very securely, I'll add.
Well, I want to point something out because I noticed this on a second watch, that the thing that's holding the tablet in there is just a turning knob. meaning it's a glass case, but then all you have to do is turn the knob to open it.
Later that night, a glowing green mummy steps out. The mummy smashes the glass case. A guard runs in, gets sprayed by knockout gas, and the mummy jumps out the window and escapes with the tablet. I think it's legitimately cool, actually. What do you think?
I think it was a cool scene. It's playing into everyone's strengths. It's Miles' flair for the dramatic. It's Sly playing dress up again. They thought through this plan. He also commits to the role even when there's no one around.
Right.
So I thought it would be kind of embarrassing if he had done that and no one actually had showed up. But then again, it's like pure Venom destructive fun, breaking the glass rather than easily opening it. Like it would have been way easier just to open it because the glass breaking is what alerts the guard.
And the glass breaking is what allows Matt to later on connect Venom to the heist of the tablet. If he had just opened it and pulled the tablet out, then Matt might be like, there's no evidence. Sorry. Yeah. Can't help you.
Too sorry. It's just is what it is.
But here's what I wanted to bring up is wouldn't the episode have been cooler if they're hanging out there at night in the office, Rashid and Professor Hillary, and suddenly the mummy case opens and scares them so that the next day they go to Matt and say, Matt, you won't believe what happened, but a mummy jumped out of a case and stole the tablet from us. And Matt's like, what are you talking about? That's not possible. It's like, no, it happened to us. Trust us. Like, it seemed like a big waste to have that exposition. And then they leave. And then you cut to this other thing. And some unknown guard is the one that's attacked by the mummy. I've seen Mask do better in their setups. And that's saying something because we're talking about Mask here. The next morning at the archaeological dig site, Thunderhawk is there next to the dig site.
He's had it shipped to a random island in the Aegean Sea.
Yeah.
So he's got a relationship with Thunderhawk that is beyond that of a car.
It's the one thing he truly loves in life.
It's the one thing he never abandons.
The T-Hawk.
The T-Hawk.
That's right. He's never once abandoned Thunderhawk. Scott, T-Bob, even Gloria have all been left in the dust. Not Thunderhawk. So the professor is giving Matt, Scott, and T-Bob a tour of the dig site. Matt and Scott are doing their best Indiana Jones impression with their outfits. The professor tells Matt that they still haven't found Tudafon's tomb. And T-Bob says, Tudafon? And I thought I had a weird name. And right there is our first Buddy Hawks Award nominee for zero cultural awareness whatsoever from T-Bob.
We're going to have some shitting on the culture locally coming from some unexpected directions. T-Bob, par for the course.
Scott's response to this, by the way, is he's some guy who lived a long time ago. He was supposed to be real wise. Despite all these places that Matt is taking him, Scott is clearly getting no education whatsoever.
Now, to be fair, it's hard to keep up with schooling when you're jet setting around the world with your billionaire dad and just constantly being left alone in hotels.
True, very true.
Best you have is a travel magazine in those hotels.
And a yacht catalog.
A yacht catalog. That is it, man.
Also, though, a new outfit for Scott.
Yeah.
Looking very dashing. And what's nice is that T-Bob is not dressed up like some ancient Egyptian.
I would have expected like T-Bob and a fez. That's like where I would have expected this to go.
True. Very true. Suddenly, a Jeep pulls up and Rashid jumps out and he reveals that the tablet has been stolen. The report is that a mummy came to life and took it. And the professor is really bent out of shape about this. He's like pulling his hair out, clenching his face. Did you catch that shot?
The man either has to get some sleep or get off the cocaine. I can't explain what direction they gave to the animators to say, make this guy seem as insane as possible. Because he is so bent out of shape over this stuff.
I have yet to see a single Mask character more bent out of shape than this guy. Like this,
100%.
he is. He's a wreck. So while the professor is having a nervous breakdown, Matt tells him, Professor, I have some friends who might be able to help recover it. And the professor is super happy. And so they're going to head off to the museum. Now, Scott wants to come, but Matt tells him it might get too dangerous. And then he asks Mr. Rashid, a man he's never met in his life, who he's known for all of 30 seconds, to please take care of Scott and T-Bob. And Mr. Rashid says, my pleasure. Worst father ever. He abandons his son in the desert with a stranger because he can at least take him into the city and say, hey, go ahead and walk to the hotel from here. I got to do some stuff here. Like, how can it be too dangerous to get back to the city and not in the desert?
He has basically said, oh, there's a low stakes tablet that needs to be investigated. I'm going to abandon my son in a foreign country yet again with strangers. And if you get a look at Scott's face when his father is leaving, it's priceless. Like, he realizes it, like, this isn't okay. How quickly does Matt basically abandon him? Like, it's a drop of a hat.
Totally. Well, look, the obvious thing to do for any writer worth half an ounce is for Scott to say, oh, Dad, can I stay behind at the dig site and watch what's going on? And Matt says, I don't know, Scott. And Mr. Rashid says, don't worry, Mr. Trakker. I'll take good care of him. And then Matt says, all right, Scott, but don't get into any trouble. And it's great, perfect, relatively solid parenting move. And will then help set up what happens at the end of the episode where Scott and T-Bob are in danger. Instead, it's the same old Matt being a bad father routine, which, at least the writers are being consistent with Matt's character.
Matt has two modes, neglect and then tremendous amounts of concern when he thinks his kid is dead.
Matt and the professor hop into Thunderhawk to get back to the museum. And Matt, this is classic. I love this, PJ. Matt immediately transforms into jet mode and flies away with the professor in the car with him. So if secrecy is of the utmost importance, let's go back to the beginning. Matt says, I might have some friends who could help with this. Kind of the coded language that he usually says about Mask, because he's not going to let on that he's the leader of Mask or anything like that. No, in this case, he transforms into jet mode and flies off. So not just with the professor in the car with him, but in front of everyone else there at the dig site. Why isn't the professor screaming for his life? Because he wasn't warned ahead of time. Hold on to something. We're about to fly into the air in this Camaro. It defies all logic in this moment.
This is my laugh out moment for the episode, and maybe the biggest one for the series.
Mine too.
Because when you look at the transformation of Thunderhawk, it's got the Mask logo as a bumper sticker on its ass. It's really clear. It's like, hey, just in case you were wondering, we're Mask. Here's the Mask symbol. I was just wondering, the professor's already got frayed nerves. Do you think he just passes out? That's why we can't hear him screaming. He's just so in shock because they take off. It is not a long runway that they use. So the G-forces are going to be pretty intense.
Yeah.
So he just might be out.
Which would be fine, because then the guy could wake up and says, I dreamt I was in a car that transformed to a jet, except for the fact that Matt took off in front of Mr. Rashid and the dozens of other people working at the dig site.
Speaking of Rashid, he actually is clearly aware of Scott's disappointment, and he actually makes overtures. He's actually acting as a better dad to this kid he's never met before. He's like, oh, I want to help with the dig. And T-Bob goes fucking bananas for no apparent reason. He's so excited.
It doesn't even make sense from a character standpoint, because T-Bob is most comfortable when he's inside a mansion or a hotel room. He does not like being out anywhere, especially not in a desert. So I don't understand where that's coming from. I want to mention Mr. Rashid one last time here. He is the coolest cucumber I've ever seen, because not only does he not react at all to a Camaro transforming into a jet and flying away, he's got a kid and a robot. And he's like, cool, whatevs. Yeah, robots. I'm down with that. Whatever. Mummies, it's cool. Transforming Camaros, all good. Egg-shaped robot, yeah, everyday occurrence.
I guess this is what happens in America every day, so I better act cool.
Yep. Well, we're back at the museum. Matt is investigating the broken glass case. The glass was an inch thick, we find out. And the professor is like, and I was so close to discovering the secret of life. And he is so bent out of shape to the extent that he needs a psychiatric professional here. I'm actually really concerned about what he's going to do to himself.
Is this his normal demeanor, or has Matt been hassling him to get this dig going? Or Matt's going to pull the funding?
Matt totally ignores him too.
He does.
He shows no concern whatsoever. He just grabs a piece of glass. He pulls out the briefcase computer and analyzes the glass. And the computer says metallic tracks on glass fragment were made by Venom glove armor. That's interesting.
Yeah. Once again, can reboost the fact that Miles is having his line of Venom clothing done by that Grandmaster Giovanni.
Yes.
He does Venom's boots, and only Giovanni can pair these metallic spikes with fine leather.
There was the use of the sleeping gas. It could have been a scrap of the mummy thing, and they connected it to the glow or whatever it is. Biggest stretch here from an evidence standpoint is a piece of glass that was smashed by something, somehow having residue on it, of glove armor, which, by the way, was covered in bandages. So it's an extremely threadbare clue, which is par for the course for Mask.
Do you think the directive he gives the computer is back me into evidence that will point to Miles' mayhem? And like the computer basically just has to use whatever circumstantial evidence is there to figure this one out.
Sure. I guess I could say armor is connected to Venom. Great. Done. Because that's what he needs. That's kind of like the official thing he needs from the PNA, either their authorization or the word Venom, in order for him to do cool stuff with his paramilitary org. We bounce into the agent selection scene here, which, is he doing this in front of the professor?
This is my question. I don't know, man. Maybe he's like, you know what? I'm going to be killing this professor later on anyhow. Like, it doesn't, I've shown him Thunderhawk. It doesn't matter now.
Collateral damage.
Give him the whole show.
The first agent is Bruce Sato. Bruce is showing off a remote control clown that does backflips. This is the great toy that he's invented. And then he gets the call and he kind of looks to his left and his right and he just walks away.
I was wondering if he was told by his manager he had to make a remote control clown that does backflips. And he's like, are you shitting me? Do you know how much of a genius I am? I make giant yo-yos work. I'm out of here. Like, he doesn't need any excuse just to like walk out of that room.
The second member of the team, Alex Sector. Now, we cut to his exotic pet shop. He has a seal. He has a seal, not even in the back room, in the front of the store, PJ.
Yep.
He has a seal. What is he doing? And he's teaching him how to spin balls on his nose. And then a woman walks in with a cat. Alice gets the call. He throws a fish to the seal, but it flies past him and ends up in the cat's mouth. The door to the shop is wide open. The seal is left unattended. I don't even know where to begin. What is he doing with a seal? Why is he training it? Just has the door open and a woman walks in with a cat and is just like, oh, cool, a seal. And then he runs off? Arrest this man.
Well, we know that he broke that orangutan spirit a few episodes back.
Yes.
And maybe this is the first part of the training to breaking the animal, is first doing something very simple like putting the ball in their nose. A couple of things. How weird is it from the perspective of that woman that she walks into a store and his reaction is just to leave? He's abandoned the seal with someone. Seals can be dangerous, especially when their food's been taken by the cat that's in her arms. So all she knows is like, I came in here for some cat food and now I have an incident with a seal.
Oh, man. I don't even know what to say. But that's it, man. It's Bruce and it's Alex.
Yeah. Small team.
Yet again, a two-person team. We're back in Egypt and we're down an alleyway and a cloaked figure knocks on a door. And it's opened by this kind of fat Egyptian guy. And the cloaked figure turns out to be the mummy from earlier who scares the guy, causing him to fall down. And you cut to Miles laughing. And then we see Vanessa standing next to him. And she's like, what a sick joke. And it turns out Sly is the mummy. And he says, I find it quite amusing. And it's so clear that Vanessa is just over it. She is over it with these people. She's really questioning the decisions she's made in her life. And I do start to wonder, is there some sort of familial connection between her and Miles? Is it her dad? Are Matt and Vanessa siblings? What is she doing here? Because she clearly doesn't want to be here anymore.
The theory that we've talked about before is that she's some sort of dilettante, is just in it for the thrills. But like at this point, just like, what thrills? Like, it's like, look, Miles, we were just in the bayou. And sure, it was fun raising that demon. And now we're in Egypt, so another hot place. She's really becoming our point of view character as an adult, of just being like, just commentary on Venom's just like incompetence.
Yeah. Sly reveals that he has the tablet, and it turns out the fat guy, his name is Abdul, and he's working alongside Venom to translate the tablet. Miles says it's worth a fortune, and that they made a deal to split it 50-50. You have my word, he tells Abdul. And then Abdul kind of walks out, and Vanessa says, 50-50? You can't be serious. To which Miles responds, as soon as Abdul deciphers the hieroglyphics, we'll dump him. And I mean, Vanessa's really growing on me, I have to say. She's like the only realist, like, in the entire show, let alone Venom.
It'd be nice if they gave her more to do. She, like Hondo, is clearly the most competent agent, but is given so little to actually get done. I mean, actually, she's really effective with whip. So I'm like, hey, let her go do like her thing. She'll kick a lot of ass.
So the general setup here, plot-wise, is Venom and Mask are going to be in a race to decipher the clues first, follow the trail, which is important here because we cut to the Mask jet in flight. So can we do a time check, please?
So I did the time check between Denver and, let's say, Cairo, basically. That's about 14 hours. So I'm just curious. Let's find out what everyone's been doing for those 14 hours.
Well, Venom has a pretty big head start because they have the tablet. So they have the only information on it, and they kind of run out of that room, which presumably happens at the same time or just after Matt assembles the mobile armored strike command. And then they get called. They have to get to Boulder Hill to get their mask, to get Rhino, to get on the Mask jet. So we call it an additional 15 hours to be really generous. So we're looking at nearly a day head start for Venom here. So we cut to Matt, Bruce, and Alex meeting with the professor. And the professor has a life-size photo of the tablet. So what is the big deal? Why is this guy so emotionally wrecked? This whole time, he could have just been using the photo to find the secret of life. What's the point?
Again, let's roll back a little bit. So he has been freaking out about losing the tablet. It's an artifact, so fine. But you're right, they have all the information. He's got a head start on translating it. He's actually, maybe it takes Abdul 15 hours to actually translate because he's never seen it before. And this guy, they have the photographs. It lowers the stakes of the tablet, which were already low to begin with. So what were they doing for those 15 hours while they're waiting for Bruce and Alex to show up? Like,
while Scott is out in the desert for at least 14 hours?
Maybe.
What's he eating? Where's he sleeping? So the professor is translating the hieroglyphs off the life-size photo of the tablet, and he mentions the Hall of the Great Khufu, to which Bruce says, Gesundheit. And we have our first Buddy Hawks nomination for Bruce.
I know. Like, when I saw that, I was like, whoa. Hey, Bruce, welcome to the club. You held off laughing at stuff back when it was like talking about Dusty's empty teepee, but I guess you're like, F it. Let's just join this thing.
It's that lack of cultural awareness or cultural, just simple respect, making fun of names. So that's how it gets that Buddy Hawks nomination. Alex responds, Khufu, my good man, was the chap who built the Great Pyramid. Okay, great.
All right.
Thanks, Alex, in a very British imperialist kind of way. So the professor reads the tablet, and it gives the specific instructions of how to get to Tutefon's tomb. So why didn't he read this a long time ago? Like before anyone ever showed up, before any of this ever happened, like there's no plot point here where it explains like, Eureka, I finally figured out how to translate the tablet, preferably because of some clue they found in the first half of the episode somewhere. And this is the big problem with the episode that we pointed out at the beginning. It's very threadbare in that it's a bunch of moments that in isolation are generally interesting from a plot standpoint. But when you piece it all together, it doesn't make any sense. You can read the tablet, apparently. So what are we all doing here in the first place? You would have had the secret of life like weeks ago, if not more.
It is very much, they're culling together scenes from other TV series and movies and where it might be more cinched together. Here it's like, we'll just presume that we don't need to actually make the logical connections here. And it makes it such a lesser episode for it.
Agreed. Though it also avoids any blatant copyright infringement of the Indiana Jones franchise. So that's good. We cut to Scott and T-Bob digging in the desert. Scott is explaining to T-Bob that a mummy is someone who is dressed in head-to-toe bandages. And T-Bob says, I hope he's got good health insurance, which is actually a funny joke, T-Bob.
It was a funny
good job.
joke.
Just one issue here, PJ.
Because of the time difference we just talked about, were they left to dig there overnight?
Right.
Did they never come home? Did Matt didn't even think about him?
The next time Matt will encounter Scott is when Scott is in mortal danger.
It's just kind of par for the course for Matt.
Scott explains to T-Bob that mummies are dead, and he hopes he'll dig one up. And T-Bob does not like that at all.
I think it's amazing. Scott's so excited to desecrate a burial ground. Because that's what mummies are, fundamentally. And during the height of sort of imperial British conquering of Egypt and all these places, they had virtually no methods for trying to preserve anything. Mm-hmm. So that they would use dynamite to actually blow up holes in these sites. There used to be tons of mummies were actually a lot more common, but they just started being oh, let's just grind it up for mummy powder and sell that. But it feels like Scott being excited to randomly dig around feels very much like the Imperial British being yeah, let's just do it.
Yeah, well, Miles is going to take from that playbook soon as well. Speaking of Venom, Sly is dressed as a guard, and he's telling people that the Great Pyramid is closed for the day, but he spots Mask in the distance. And Matt spots the Venom vehicles and says, looks like Venom stopped for a sightseeing tour. Then let's give them some memories for their scrapbook. And that was the most menacing I've actually heard Matt.
It was intense. And I felt I don't know if Matt is feeling it with the Egyptian sun bearing on him as he's in a fully clothed jumpsuit with a mask over his head. But he's kind of had it at this point in time. It's also that intensity is sharply contrast with his desire to protect a World Heritage site. He's we have to stop Venom no matter the cost, rather than we should make sure we protect the precious artifacts that are here.
Well, all of Venom comes running out of the pyramid. Abdul follows, but he falls down the stairs and he drops the tablet. Vanessa uses whip to great effect by grabbing the tablet. Abdul says, give it back, but Vanessa says, we don't need you anymore. I thought Vanessa was going to kill him, but she didn't. Here's a question for you. Thought question.
Yeah.
Would Venom be more successful if Vanessa was their leader?
They would be 100% more successful. Also, they probably wouldn't be a terrorist organization. She probably would have transformed them into a giant multi-billion-dollar conglomerate.
Yeah.
That's they just sell weapons to people. That's basically it. You want a giant Delta sub? We'll do it. Here you go. Mm-hmm. That's the way I look at it, is Vanessa would just figure out the only reason she does this is for the thrill.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a Ragdoll nomination for Abdul falling down the stairs.
Yeah, he kind of rolls down like just a ball.
If not dead, he certainly would have been badly injured falling from that height. Rhino actually almost crashes into a bunch of people and then turns its guns on them. Fortunately, Matt tells them to hold their fire. Would Alex and Bruce have actually opened fire had Matt not said that?
Bruce, I don't know. Alex, 100%.
Miles creates a diversion by firing missiles at the pyramid, causing these boulders to fall, and a bus of tourists is about to get crushed.
I want to point out, again, this is a World Heritage site. Venom has just fired a missile at irreplaceable objects that have both national and international importance. And I guess Egypt's just going to be okay with this?
Dozens of people are about to die. Mask is helpless to stop them. What's going to happen, PJ?
I don't know. I just don't know. It's so scary.
We'll find out after these messages.
Mask doesn't know what it's getting into. We'll be right back. Now back to Mask and Venom.
And we're back. When we left you, dozens of tourists were about to be killed by Venom's favorite object of choice, boulders. But don't worry, Bruce uses Lifter to lift the bus into the sky moments before they are crushed, which is an excellent use of a mask power, I have to say. I wonder if Lifter is the most used mask in the whole series. There's a lot of lifting that needs to be done. In Mask. At any rate, Bruce is kind of waving, all the tourists cheer, and Bruce is kind of waving at them oh, yeah, you're welcome. But then Alex lowers his arm and kind of nods to Abdul, who's running away. And so to stop him, Bruce lifts Abdul into the air and puts him on the top of a palm tree. What? Bruce, what are you doing?
It was definitely a dick move on his part. I mean, it's hilarious, but
Yeah.
a clear dick move
Yeah.
where it's like, and we never see Abdul again, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, Matt said something along the lines of, oh, that'll slow him down until the authorities come.
Yeah, he probably would fall from the tree and die. Is actually a more likelihood. Bruce has actually just put Abdul into like real danger by doing that.
Bruce is making some moves this episode. Back to Scott and T-Bob. T-Bob asks, what happens if we do dig up a mummy? And Scott says, we'll capture them with your goop bomb, to which T-Bob says, but it never works right. So the introduction of T-Bob having an offensive weapon for the first time. Not sure if it's new or old, but here it is. Scott makes him test it out, and it malfunctions and ends up covering T-Bob in goop. So it's a very interesting feature to install in a robot. Who gave him the goop bomb? What do you think?
Since it quote unquote never works, I'm guessing that this is a feature that Scott put in. Alex has made some very questionable choices about stuff to feel, but Scott seems to be the one that likes to put in devices and additional capabilities that seem unnecessary.
There's a sense in this episode that the writer is crafting the plot in kind of a stream of consciousness way. As he realizes he needs things, he sets them up. And this is one of them, where it's like, oh, I'm going to do a goop bomb later, so I better show it off here. Whereas the smarter thing to do would be at the beginning of the episode, you start the runner story of Scott installing a goop bomb shooter in T-Bob, and he's trying to get it to work, and it doesn't work. And you kind of play around with that as the runner the whole time, and then it finally pays off at the end. But instead, let's introduce it once with zero explanation whatsoever, and then have it pay off later on in the episode.
Payoff's a strong phrase here, sir.
I apologize. Yes. But again, this is par for the course for the Mask writers. Meanwhile, inside the pyramid, Alex is leading them. He is reading the hieroglyphs aloud. And Bruce says to Matt, and you think I talk strange. And we have another Buddy Hawks nominee. Again, total cultural insensitivity here from Bruce.
What's great is that Bruce has found a way to insult multiple cultures at the same time. His own and the one of the ancient Egyptians. Way to go, man. That's a very efficient use of your Buddy Hawks nomination.
Mask discovers that the map points to a mound near the Sphinx. And that's also near where Matt abandoned Scott at the top of the episode. We finally pay off Matt's abandonment of his son. And once again, he realizes he has put his own son in mortal danger.
Maybe this is the payoff that the writer was actually going for in this episode.
Yeah. Matt learning a lesson. You abandon your son, eventually something bad is going to happen to him, which actually it does frequently. So we cut to Venom. They're approaching the mound. Sly and Miles create a sandstorm. Sly kicking up dirt from Piranha, Miles blowing it with the blades on Switchblade. Legitimately cool. And everyone runs away. Everyone abandons Scott and T-Bob. Including Mr. Rashid, who swore to Matt that he would take care of Scott. But then somehow Scott and T-Bob fall into quicksand and slide down into an underground room.
Scott actually, I mean, he gets himself into danger. We see that a lot, and it's fine. He didn't in this case. Like, he's in trouble because his agency was taken away from him. All at the feet of Matt.
No, I know. I mean, he's the worst father in the world. Miles fires missiles into the mound in order to gain access to the underground tomb.
So once again, we've got Miles going back to his old well of destroying World Heritage sites.
Turns out Scott and T-Bob survived, by the way, and they stumble into King Tudafon's sarcophagus, the burial room itself. And Scott says, the mummy's probably inside.
Let's start desecrating a tomb. Like, that's the only interpretation of that.
Absolutely. Suddenly, Miles, Sly, and Vanessa show up. And Miles says to Scott, what are you doing here? And Scott claims they're lost. They fell down a hole like Alice in Wonderland. That reference comes completely out of left field. Doesn't have any connection whatsoever to Egypt, ancient Egypt at all.
The writer just decided this would be fun.
Okay. T-Bob uses his goop bomb, and it works finally. It covers Venom and goop and allows Scott and T-Bob to escape.
Yeah, what's funny is that Miles tells Scott just to get out of the way. Like, in theory, I don't know if Scott probably could have just walked out of there. But to that statement, Scott retaliates. And I was wondering how much shit Scott would be in if the goop bomb had failed.
Right.
It's like, all right, well, if you're going to try and stop us, now we're going to beat the crap out of you, kid.
Don't they recognize Scott? And even if they don't really recognize kids' faces, he's yet again with the egg-shaped robot. Aren't they starting to wonder, hey, who's this kid and his robot who are occasionally in the way of our plan?
Yeah, they just saw them like face to face in Cold Fever, where they had Scott right in front of them. And someone should be recognizing.
Yeah, certainly it's easy enough to make the connection to, oh, this is Matt's kid. Or this kid is connected to Mask somehow, right? Because he doesn't necessarily know it's Matt behind it. But every time Mask shows up, this kid is here. So I think that would be a logical thing to do throughout these episodes when Scott and Venom come into contact. At the very least, the line for Miles should have been, you again, just to add some kind of continuity. Of course, these episodes are written out of order and probably aired out of order.
There's an interesting aspect to this because you could have imagined a slightly different line reading could actually suture this. Instead of, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? Like just a little more emphasis on that you.
Yeah.
It'd just be enough just to mean that Miles is not completely amnesiac.
Exactly. But Scott and T-Bob, they are able to escape and head up to the surface.
Matt's like, I read you, Scott. You'd better get out of there. And then Scott rides off into the desert. like that is what we see from him. That is, it's like not picking him up. Like Scott has to do this all himself.
Yeah. Which again, that's Matt's MO. Venom opens the sarcophagus and Miles grabs the golden scarab and says, at last, the secret of life is mine. I have no idea what that means, but I continue. Venom runs out of the tomb and they're running to their vehicles. And Bruce uses Lifter to actually crash Switchblade into the ground before Miles can even get there. And then Miles hops into the sidecar of Piranha and Sly hits the gas and they take off. Matt fires at Piranha, not to blow it up or to knock it off the road. It's really just kind of like to injure Mayhem because he fires the laser precisely on the back of the sidecar in order to heat it up and burn Miles's butt.
I love the line he's got. He's like, poor Mayhem's getting a rough ride. Maybe he'd be more comfortable if his seat was warmed up. And yeah, we have this like pattern of either freezing people's asses or lighting them on fire.
It's like he's actually just being vindictive here. It's not going to stop them. It's not going to slow them down. He's not trying to pop tires, destroy the engine, or blow up Piranha. He's just trying to injure Miles.
This will be a funny thing for me to tell everyone at Boulder Hill.
Guess what I did? I burned Miles's butt.
I do want to call out, we have another smart use of Lifter for taking out Switchblade. It was a good use of the mask power. I was like, yeah, this is what we want.
Manta takes off, and Matt fires one of his magnetic jet pucks, forcing Manta to the ground. And then Matt lands behind Manta and for some reason climbs out of Thunderhawk. Like he's a cop who's about to knock on the window. And like, do you know how fast you were flying? But Vanessa pumps out sleeping gas from the exhaust pipe of Manta and Matt collapses. And Vanessa says, sleep tight, baby. And suddenly I wondered, do Matt and Vanessa have something going on? Like on the side? There's a little something there, right?
There was a little something there. And like in the run up to it, because Matt had originally told Bruce to go after Manta, Bruce says to Matt, let's change partners. So in the show, it's meant to have Matt then take Thunderhawk to go after Manta. But is there something else here? Are they swingers? Because, we've established something between Vanessa and Bruce. And then Matt says to himself, there's nobody else in the car. He's like, now, Vanessa, sample of my magnetic personality, before he fires the jet puck at her. And I'm like, was he on something when he said that? It was like a really weird, super calm thing.
I know.
I don't know, man. Is there anyone Matt doesn't have something going on with?
Manta catches up to Piranha, and Vanessa's like, give me the tablet. And Miles says, no, open your door. I want to climb in. So he tries this really dangerous maneuver where he's going to climb out of the sidecar and into Manta, but through the driver's side door. Rhino is like coming up right behind them. And then suddenly there's a rock up ahead. Manta and Piranha kind of split ways and Miles goes right through the middle. Manta, Piranha, and Miles fly into the air and go tumbling down to the ground below. So there is absolutely a Sly Rax Ragdoll award to Miles, at the very least in that moment.
Oh, 100%.
He's dead. Miles is dead.
Because he hits that rock at full speed.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would Miles attempt to do that kind of vehicle switch? It made so little sense in that moment.
Unless the sidecar is still hot from Matt using the laser on it. So when Miles hits the ground, dead and yet not, but he survives somehow, Bruce uses lifter once again, and he grabs the golden scarab, and Venom escapes in Manta. Two things I love about this. One, all three of them squeeze into Manta, which is like a two-door sports car, which is quite funny. But two, presumably leaving Switchblade and Piranha behind.
I know. Let's play with this one. If Venom doesn't have their vehicles, Mask either confiscates those vehicles and Venom manufactures new ones. We've postulated this because we've seen Switchblade get destroyed before. The other option is that Mask just abandons the vehicles for Venom to go retrieve later on.
Or like some foreign military.
Or exactly, the Egyptian military kind of comes in and be like,
yeah,
a helicopter transforms into a jet. This is awesome.
Well, Matt says to Bruce, "You got the scarab." And Bruce reveals it and says, "As one of my honorable ancestors said, finders keepers." So I think it's a good twist on a Sadoism, because we're kind of expecting it to happen, but he doesn't.
Yeah.
I wonder, I don't think it's quite a nomination, but we're kind of in the area of it.
Let's say this is not a ticket. This would be a warning.
Yeah, there's a yellow card.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we cut back to the professor's office, and they're all gathered around, and they're studying the scarab, and the professor's like looking at it with a magnifying glass. And here it is, PJ.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm bracing myself.
Listeners, pull over your car, stop what you're doing, pull out a pen and paper if you want to, just take in this moment, because here we go. It's the secret of life. The professor says, "Mankind has searched in vain for thousands of years to discover this, and now I can tell you, the secret of life is love." Yes.
The secret of life is love.
I laughed out loud in that moment, as did every character in the scene laughed out loud. So I couldn't figure out, are they laughing because that's great? Are they laughing because it's idiotic? Are they laughing because they went through all of this just to learn that, the secret of Froggle Rock is the Froggles themselves? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what?
I actually just said, fuck. Like, I wasn't laughing at this point in time. I was pissed. Part of it I was pissed was at myself for thinking that they were going to have something more profound than this. Like, it was just like, okay, it's just going to be something, kitsch. And that's fine. I do like that earlier the professor said the success of the entire project depended upon that tablet. Mm-hmm. So what does this reveal mean for the success of the entire project? Is he going to publish a paper now being like, we found Tudafon's secret of life? It's love.
Well, look, here's the thing. Again, bad writing, unsurprising. But there's the idea of a theme of an episode. And if there was something about love throughout the episode, then the secret of life.
Sure.
And it's love, then it all works. Like, it's, oh, wow, that's really beautiful, because there was this character interaction that was all about love. And we had this ongoing thing in the episode that was about love. Broken hearts, Vanessa and Matt no longer together, for example, or Bruce and Vanessa, whatever. But the secret of life is love. That would be beautiful, actually. Similar to Froggle Rock. I'll go back to Froggle Rock. You all go watch that episode. It's awesome. But it's just comes out of the blue and means nothing.
Let's try and connect the dots here.
Okay.
Let's say it is love. We have a clear example of Matt not loving Scott by abandoning him in the desert. We have an example of Matt loving T-Hawk by bringing it with him everywhere and then showing it off to whomever at this point in time. We have an obsession that Matt has with Miles's butt. And then whatever messed up triangle, quadrangle is going on with Vanessa, Gloria, Bruce, and Matt. So there's your love right there. You're right. It all connects together. I would have loved it if the scene actually ended with the professor going, oh, wait, I mistranslated. It says the secret of life is to have enough wealth and power to lord it over others and have people do whatever you want. And then like everyone would look at Matt and Scott, and then Matt would look at Scott and say, well, son, can't argue with that. And then only Matt and Scott laugh, but that's it.
I would be fine if it ended with love, and then everyone stands there, and slowly, one by one, they just walk out of the room. And Matt's the last one, and he's like, I spent $10 million on this.
Last archaeological dig I used with you. Spectrum laser on. You've seen too much.
We go to the more you know. Scott's, I guess, kind of in an alleyway, and he sees a dumpster. And listeners, I'm not lying about any of this, okay? Scott sees a dumpster, thinks it's really cool, and he wants to go in it. And so T-Bob's going to give him a lift to go in. At that same moment, Matt pulls up in Thunderhawk, and he says, Scott, what are you doing? You never know what's inside a garbage bin. Sharp glass, rusty metal, even rats. A trash bin is not a playground. And Scott's like, thanks for warning me, Dad. Well, was this a problem in the 80s where kids just like dumpster diving in the 80s and getting tetanus or something?
I don't remember this as being like a thing you did. And more to the point, what would be motivating the child of a billionaire who can get whatever he wants to go dumpster diving? Oh, right. Neglect. I don't know, man. Like, I mean, this was his reaction. I mean, look, he's right. Matt is right about this.
He is.
What gave Scott the idea to go do this is like a question I would be asking. Like, why do you think this is cool? Like, you're rummaging through someone else's stuff they thought was trash.
You're going to jump in a dumpster. That's what your plan. I mean, he's wandering the streets alone with T-Bob, sees a dumpster, says, oh, I want to go in there and see what they got.
Let us try our very best here. Like, is he hoping to get souvenirs from Egypt? Is this happening still in Egypt?
I don't think it's in Egypt because those buildings look, not that Egypt doesn't have modern buildings, but it looks more like a North American like office park, actually. That makes no sense at all. And that's it. That's the end of the episode. Matt pats Scott on the head and cue the end credits. Another winner, Mask. Good job. What do we got for our awards, PJ? Father of the Year award?
Well, I mean, I'm very much in the category that moment he abandons his kid in the desert with a stranger.
Yep.
That's it.
I don't think we have any argument there. Buddy Hawks award? Any nominees for you? Plenty, huh?
We've got T-Bob. We could have got T-Bob with his whole like name thing. We could have done Sly Rax even with playing dress up again of kind of impersonating a mummy. But the silver bullet here is Bruce Sato, like not with one, but multiple occurrences. So he wanted to win it this time.
Yeah, no, he made a concerted effort to win the award. So with gusto, he received the Buddy Hawks award this episode. Sly Rax Ragdoll, I mean, it's got to be, I mean, Abdul is a nominee for sure. He probably fell to his death from the palm tree, but I think we got to give it to Miles. You
100%.
know, he's in between two vehicles. He hits a rock at full speed and flies to the ground below, which was, they were high up on a kind of like a cliff.
Yeah.
And he survives that. So RIP Miles. We'll see you next episode. Well, that's it for episode 22. Episode 23, Vanishing Point. Venom hijacks planes by setting up a fake airport, jamming radars, and confusing pilots to land there in order to capture an experimental supersonic jet. Sounds a bit convoluted just to capture that one jet. Wouldn't an experimental supersonic jet probably have better radar? Oh, this must be an airport.
The tagline captures so much inside of it. Like, I mean, so much. We're gonna have some fun with this next one. The next episode is fun. I'm really looking forward to like the episode 2 episodes from now.
All right. Well, I'm glad that you watched them ahead of time. As the listeners may or may not know, I do watch them in real time, and I'm realizing I only vaguely remember these episodes. Like one scene or two from each episode is still kind of in my memory banks. Everything else, this feels like I'm watching a brand new show. So this is very fun. We hope you all had fun as well this episode, but this podcast has to transform. Head back to HQ. I'm Adam Moore.
And I am PJ McNerney.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
The Mobile Armored Podcast show is written, produced, and edited by Adam Moore and PJ McNerney.